Hi, and welcome to our orientation. So this first video is going to help, we're going to look at our syllabus together, and I'll walk you through how our course is going to be arranged and talk about how you'll earn your grades and how we'll cover material. We'll have later video that will show you how Blackboard is arranged. So this time we're just going to be talking about how our course is going to work and not so much about Blackboard. So let's start by looking at the syllabus. Your syllabus you can find on the left-hand toolbar here. If you ever can't see the toolbar, just bring your cursor over. Sometimes it'll collapse like that. But if you bring your cursor over to here and click that arrow, it'll come back. So click on the syllabus. And when we get to that syllabus page, there's two documents here. One is called the syllabus, and that's the one we'll be looking at together. And then one is called the college policies document. That's the information that will be the same across any of your courses. It's not unique to our course, so it's about withdrawing or about library hours and things like that. There's important information and useful information in there, but I've separated it out so that we don't have a 12-page document for your syllabus. So if we click on the syllabus, right, and I'm going to open it here so we can see it large. This is the document that tells you when things are due, although some of those due dates are also on Blackboard, but it talks to you about how I've structured our course, what assignments and exams you're going to have, when we're going to be starting different chapters, and so on. And so we're going to go through this together and take a look. And some information on here will be more important for us to talk about together and other less important. For example, I'm assuming you already know that this is an online course since you're signed up for it and watching this video. I do want you to pay attention to my office hours. Those are office hours for those of you that are new to college. Office hours are those hours when I promise to be available to meet with students. And that is the purpose of those hours. Students might come by to talk about course material that you're not understanding very well. You might talk about an assignment that you're working on that you want some guidance on, or you might come in to talk about other things that have come up that you think might be important for me to know, or that I might be useful to help you with. So those are the hours listed here. I will be in my office on Mondays and Thursdays when you see this. Wednesday nights, I will not be in my office. I will be available for virtual office hours. I know some people have work schedules that make the evenings a more convenient time, so I've created those. You definitely need to schedule with me. I won't be sitting on the website waiting for people to show up. So if you know you want to meet with me, just shoot me an email and let me know that, and then I'll be sure to log on when I'm expecting you. If you're doing virtual office hours, this is the link for the virtual office hours room. But otherwise, I'll be in my office, which I'm realizing is not on here, but I will add it, which is K601, but I will add it and put a new copy of the syllabus up. So then we have our course description for General Psych. You already have previous information from me that I sent out about the required textbook that is on Blackboard, and hopefully you've already accessed that. And then there's some more information here about the textbook that I did send out already as well. There is this link for the library. This is a really useful link. It's also in some of your paper assignments because there's important information there to help you write papers for psychology. And then these are your learning outcomes. This is what you should be able to do by the time you finish the course. You'll see these and some additions to these in each one of our chapters on Blackboard, where it'll tell you, like, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to. And so that really gives a nice guide to, what we're focusing on, what I'm going to find most important, and also a way of testing yourself, right? Can I do these things? Because if I'm telling you that this is what's important that you should be able to do, then likely you're going to be tested on it as well. All right, so I'm just looking. There's more about us being on Blackboard. We're going to talk a little bit about evaluation and grading. This grid you see here is a college-based grid. That's not my cutoffs. Those are the college's cutoffs. The only thing that's different between mine and this grid that you might see on other faculty syllabi, other course syllabi, is that we work on a 1,000-point system. So I've just added zeros, right? I've just adjusted it so that it reflects the idea that you're working towards 1,000 points, not 100 points. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But this should look familiar because this should be on all of your course syllabi with this that minor adjustment. So let's take a look at the evaluation criteria is what you'll need to do to earn your grade in this course. And I will preface that by saying students tend to think of grades as things that their professors give them. But I think very strongly, actually, that I'm just a recorder of grades, right? That you earn grades and I just write down what you've earned. So the idea of me, awarding points is not the same, that you will be earning points, right? So we work on this 1,000-point system. I like a 1,000-point system for a couple of reasons. First, it is a completely additive system, meaning you are simply adding up points to get to 1,000 or as close to 1,000 as you can over the course of the semester. What that means is that you earn every point you keep. So that if you get a 50 on an exam, 50 out of 100, normally that's a failing grade and you get a 0, right? You get an F for the exam, and it's as if you never took the exam, which is not great, right? You earned 50 points. You knew half the material. In a 1,000-point system, you keep those 50 points. You may have lost 50 points, but you still get more points than if you didn't show up for the exam. You still get to keep the 50 points for the information you knew. And so in that way, this feels much more fair to me than awarding an F because you didn't make a threshold, right? And then you get no credit even for the information you knew. The other thing about my grading system is that there's lots of small parts of it, and that we're going to talk about that in a moment. And that means that there's no one assignment or exam assessment that is going to make or break your grade. There's lots of different small pieces of it to add up. And so, so I like that. The other thing I like about the 1,000-point system is it's really transparent, that you don't need to figure out, well, I got an A on that, but it was only 10% of the grade, and I got a B on that, but it was 30% of the grade, right? There's not having to figure out weights and so on, that everything is just points. The points all go into the same bucket. In fact, extra credit goes into the same bucket to get you as close as you can get to 1,000 points. So really transparent in that way. And you'll see a running total on Blackboard that will tell you any moment in time, how many points do you have? And then you can figure that out. You can think about, okay, how many points can I earn? Towards the end of the semester, we only have the final, the last exam, and that's 100 points. Where am I? How close can I get to 1,000? The math is easy. So let's talk about what you'll do to earn those points. There are 4 exams over the course of the semester. Every 2 chapters, there will be an exam. So we'll go through the first 2 chapters, and you'll have exam 1. We'll go through the next 2. You'll have exam 2. There's no cumulative midterm or final. That you simply have 4 equally spaced exams. Those are worth 100 points each. We'll talk more about those as we get closer. But they will be a combination of multiple choice questions and open-ended kind of very short essay, like 4 sentences, kind of open-ended questions. There'll be a combination of those, and those will be timed exams online. So, but we will talk about those more as we get closer. I'll send out detailed information, but feel free to ask questions before then. We also will have 2 short written papers. The first one of those is 130 points. The second one's 150 points. There's a video that we'll talk in detail about paper 1, and then we'll talk about paper 2 as we get closer to it. But there's a separate video, so I won't spend a lot of time on that here. You also will have online quizzes, different from the exams, right? Chapter quizzes that will be due for each chapter. Most chapters we'll cover them over the course of 2 weeks. So figure one of these every 2 weeks or so. And those are due the Thursday after the chapter opens. You'll find them when we look on Blackboard. I'll show you where you're going to find those. They're 10 points each, total of 8 quizzes. You can take those quizzes as many times as you want to earn the highest grade. So, right, they're not a lot of points each. They're really what's called a formative assessment, meaning that they're not meant to evaluate what you know. They're meant to help you learn the material. So that's a useful way to think about them. If you skip all of them, it'll impact your grade, right? There's no way to get an A if you forfeit 80 points. But they're a nice way to pad your grade. And so you should plan to take those. There are no makeups for those quizzes. That if something interferes with you taking it, then those 10 points are simply lost. But there are extra credit opportunities that will help you make up those 10 points if you're concerned about that. There are also 2 required discussion forums for each chapter. There is one, there's a grading rubric for each one of them. You can look at that rubric. I encourage you to look at that rubric by going into My Grades and looking at the rubric for the discussions. One of those will be in response to a prompt that I give, and one of those will be a muddiest points. The one in response to the prompt is I'll ask you to do something or talk about something, and you'll do that. The muddiest points, I ask you to post a question on some of the material that we've covered in that chapter that you either don't understand well or simply want to understand better, or something related to the content that you just want to, that you're curious about. So you have to ask a question. The purpose of the question asking is that we learn better when we think about things in ways that allow us to ask questions. So it's to help you engage with the material more deeply. In both of those forums, you also need to respond to classmates. And so make sure that you do that. We will talk a little bit more about that when we're looking at Blackboard together. But you do need to post your own, submit your own post, and then respond to classmates for each one of those 2 in every chapter. And that's going to be a bulk of how you engage with each other and with me during the class. There are also, as I mentioned before, extra credit opportunities for some of the chapters. They just get added to your total points. So you can do all of them, you can do none of them, you can do some of them, whatever you do. You can't ever be penalized for trying an extra credit. So even if you only get partial credit, right, because we're on a point system, they just get added to the bucket of points. All right, so let's take a look then. There is a message from me here. Please do read that. It tells you some of what I'm expecting. But let's look at our calendar. So if we take a look at the calendar, obviously we start today. This very first week is simply a course orientation module or unit. That everything in here, you're watching the videos, you're introducing yourself on the discussion. Everything in here is due a week out, the first Sunday after the course opens, so September 4th, which means our first actual chapter doesn't open until September 5th. It actually will be available to you on Wednesday, August 31st, but the official start date. So if you want to start working ahead, you can. But the due dates start that week of September 5th. So you can see that for each chapter, there is a date it begins and a date it closes. There's work due in between those dates. It's really important to make note of now. As you can see in this description up here, that you'll always have work due on Thursdays and Sundays, and work will be due every Thursday and Sunday. So if you use a calendar, which I encourage everyone to do, whether you use a calendar on like your phone, right, or you use a paper calendar, it would be good to make note on every Thursday and Sunday that you have work due for Sec 111, because that will be the case throughout the semester. The only exception to that will be Thanksgiving week. Right, so you can see the different chapters and when they open and close. You'll also see in bold when something else outside the chapters is due. So you have an article that you need to submit to me for paper 1 by October 2nd. You have an exam that opens on October 3rd and closes on October 9th. The thing to know about the exams is they are time limited. And once you hit begin, they've started. And there's no pausing them or stopping them. So you can take the exam anytime between October 3rd and October 9th in this case, but you have to take it during one 90-minute period during that. But again, you'll get more information as we get closer to exam 1. Right, so we continue here, and you can see, all of the dates that all of the chapters begin and all of the chapters end. As I mentioned earlier, we do have Thanksgiving week. The Human Development chapter occurs over that week, but there won't be any work due The college is closed Wednesday to Sunday that week, and you won't have any work due from Wednesday to Sunday. So there'll be a little bit difference in the due dates that week. So hopefully this gives you some idea of how to make sense of your syllabus. I would encourage all of you to either print a copy out, especially that calendar that we just went over, or download it to your computer, but to have it readily available to you would be really good, even so that you can access it even if you don't have internet access, which would be really important. All right, so our next video is going to look at our Blackboard structure and how you find things within Blackboard. Okay, I will say that if you have questions about anything I'm covering in any of the videos, there is, as you'll see in the next video, a link called Practical Questions in every unit. And that is a great place when you have a generic question, something not unique to you, nothing that has any privacy attached to it, but where you're just going to raise your hand and ask a question, you can ask it in that forum. Okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video.